We haven't seen each other since more than a year, and you were one of the first people to participate or help me out. And at the same time, you were trying to make Sundbyberg City give back a school to Hallonbergen.
Yes.
Because they had taken away the school, and you were a teacher at that school when it was there. And then you went also, from there you went where?
To another school in Sundbyberg.
Yeah.
They used the schoolhouse for a private school instead. So there is still a school in Hallonbergen, but it's not for children who live in Hallonbergen primary.
So when you saw this film, the two of you, let's start there. When you saw the film with these boys, what were your thoughts? Because you know them.
Well, I should say I first met you when I was involved in a voluntary tutoring association at the local library, and so I've seen these boys grow up, and I also work at the local fritidsgård
Youth center. Yeah.
A couple of days a week. So I meet these guys a couple of days every week, and I mean I can't say much has changed. I mean that sentiment of not hopelessness, but something like that, it still exists. Yeah.
But there was a really important issue with the youth center. The youth center at the time when I came was this big, almost smaller, for 70 boys, like these ones.
Well, the previous youth center, it was located in the old school, and so when the municipality, I don't know if they sold the school or if they just rented out, but so the youth center went with the school, and so they moved into a very small room. It's just one big room in the mall. And
it's open. When I came, it was open from 5 to 9, 3 days a week, and not on Saturdays and so on.
Well,
So
they expanded two more hours, so it's open from 3 to 9, about 9:30, and then it's 4 or 5 days a week. But it's still problematic. It's just one big room, and it's more of a containment situation more than engaging and influencing the children.
What did you think when you saw them speak?
What I hear is about the sense they don't have equal opportunities compared to other kids in Sundbyberg. Hallonbergen area is never a high priority, and nor are the children there. There are always others who come first in line when it comes to schooling and other activities. And the football court, they got a football court. They really wished for a football court. And they had it, for somewhat 2 months or so. And then football teams could use it, and young people in Hallonbergen could not, because there was this schedule for when to use it. So they got it, they had it, they lost it.
And it's the natural. What struck me was this: how natural it was for the city to do such things without even asking, like when they took down the forest in Hallonbergen. So this was one of the main. I'm sorry to hold this. It's because it hurts my ear.
It's like
No, it was very easy to think about moving lots of houses in there to change, because there was no like democratic resistance in this area at all. Nobody protests, like you said about the youth center now.
Well, I should add, I don't come from an arts background, but my perspective of the project was all about democracy and creating a space for discourse, and where the people that live in Hallonbergen are actually have a say in the ongoing process of reshaping, rebuilding Hallonbergen. And I think that's probably what I took with me from the project. Yeah.
Today you work in a similar area, but not Hallonbergen.
Yeah.
And have you, when you look at the way you work today, what are the concerns that you have for its similar conditions? You work in a school.
It's rather similar. I work in a school in an area which is not at high priority. I'm drawn to these areas, I think. But when it comes to asking parents, if you invite parents to the city hall, there will be parents like me there, loudly protesting if something happens to our kids' school. But not many parents from Hallonbergen will show up in a meeting like this. And there was, when we were protesting about schools in Sundbyberg a couple of years ago, the Pink Room in Hallonbergen Centrum became a very important meeting point for us because we could use that room.
That's the PARK LEK space in Hallonbergen.
So we invited politicians to come. And we asked the questions we wanted to ask. It was our agenda, really. And it was our home. We had ownership of the meetings instead of being invited to get information about coming decisions.
And we also got a school.
Yeah.
Because the kids in Hallonbergen couldn't go to any school. They were always put in last.
Yeah,
And because they didn't have a home school, as it's called.
No, that was rather foul inequity in Sundbyberg, because all other areas have primary schools for school year 1 to 3, and Hallonbergen didn't. So the kids in Hallonbergen, when you were 5 years old in Hallonbergen, you didn't know what school you would fit into, and you did not know where to go with your best friend. And when you're 5 years old, you want to know which school is my school. And where the kids went differed from year to year because of how many other kids who lived nearby other schools. So in some of those meetings, we had parents telling their stories. We had some older teenagers talking about not having a school, and we also compared politicians and city planners in Sundbyberg with do you know Rasmus på Luffen by Astrid Lindgren? You know, a boy lives in an orphanage. And all the parents who come to get a child, they always want these girls with light hair. They don't want him. And they sort of treated Hallonbergen kids as Rasmus. They didn't want them. You can stay there, you can go, whatever happens. It's not our concern. But that changed, because now they have one school where they can go, even though they don't live very close to that school. They know that if I want to go with my best friend, I can go there. That's my school. There's a place for me.
And they're also going to expand the school and modernize it. So that is actually been
good.
Yeah, so it's good. But I was thinking that one of the reasons why we got the school was the parent association. You and me, we worked that one together.
We started, and I don't have children yet, so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's important for the parents to get involved. And I heard this story. This is before I started working at the youth center, and it was then under a different leadership. But I heard that the parents and the youths they wanted to meet with the city, the politicians and the officials about a bigger, a better youth center, and they never got anywhere with that. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, I don't know who the kids were, but they came into the youth center and they ruined everything. They crashed all the windows, the PlayStations and the TVs, and probably a week after, all the politicians and the officials were at this big meeting, and they decided, okay, we'll provide the kids with a big a bigger, nicer youth center. And it's this perpetuation of they reinforce, I don't know how I should put it, but there's definitely missing, the democracy is missing in Hallonbergen, and I think that's why I really appreciate the project where, I mean, most of the people that live in Hallonbergen come from different backgrounds. Most aren't well educated. They're not. They don't. Perhaps they don't understand the process of how the municipality makes decisions and how, if you want to influence, where you need to turn. But I think this. I mean, you coming in, you come from the outside, but you started up something and let it go organic. So that's.
But you were quite concerned with the fact that they gave them a larger youth center now after having trashed it. But I was quite pleased because when we stopped, the city council had promised the kids to get a bigger youth center. But they smirked that they didn't do it. So they just left it out after the project was finished. So in my book, they were using their democratic voice. But you don't see it that way, do you?
I think they should. I think they should have utilized the parental association.
Yeah.
I think they should have spoken up. But I think, I mean, there's an image of suburbs as being these dangerous places, and all the kids are immigrants and they're all criminals. And I think the fact that you give something to a person just because they behave poorly. I mean, it reflects poorly not just on the leadership, on the parents, and on the. I mean, it reinforces the children's idea of, okay, when I don't get anything, I'll just break something, I'll get it. And I think that's it should have been up to the parents and to the politicians, and they should have held the politicians' feet to the fire and said, we elected you, especially it was a social democratic majority, and they should have,
They should have delivered. Anna, do you think it's, maybe this will be our final question about, when we speak about democracy, we sort of, in PARK LEK, one could say that we flew in, and I ask you because you stood a little in your own project as activist beside ours, but did you at the time have any fear that such a project would sort of just be another project that also drains the wish for people to participate? Or did you at the time feel that it did help out in different ways? Because I was warned so many times that here we are really tired of projects.
Yeah. I think there is always a risk-taking when you ask people what they really want if you don't deliver. But I think the difference between this project and many others was that a city was really asking because they wanted to know what residents wished for. It was not the kind of asking you do because you have to ask, because it's democratically correct to ask. And I think it has yet to be seen if new housing are built where the model placed them and what happens to schooling and to young people. Because if they deliver, this would be very good for the future.
What do you say? Are you
Final words?
worried? Yeah, well, I was thinking, are you worried that if they don't deliver, that this will forever lock these people up from participating?
I mean, when you ask somebody to open up, I mean, it's risk taking from the person that tells you what they want, and it's. But I mean, these people, Hallonbergen, we used to politicians coming in every 4 years, or whenever there's a election, So, but I mean, I guess that's part of life. If you want something, you have to ask for it, and if you don't ask for it, you won't get it. So, it's a risk you have to take.
And we do have the parent association.
We do.
It's not only parents for a school. If you pay 1 krona, you are part of a parent association in Hallonbergen, and they are officially now a reference point for any change in Hallonbergen. So at least that. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we should get some questions from the public, so please keep sitting. Are there any questions from the floor? Yeah.
I was wondering, could you say something about how to strengthen parents? Is there a method for strengthening parents and supporting their children?
Let's see if this is still working. I think I can't say for every area, but in Hallonbergen it's just education and I think the youth center and other places need to be better at creating a rapport or a connection with the parents, because often it feels that the parents are in a blind spot. They don't see anything. They don't know what their children are up to. So I think definitely better contact between the institutions in Hallonbergen and the parents.
We had these public meetings in the middle of the center with the parents, and it was a mixed generation, mixed gender, and it was some very common. But it was almost only people with foreign background who came, and they found out who was the boss for the youth center. They found out, so they got to know these people personally, and I think that's one thing. And the second is that their definition of where the problem is, it's a good starting point. We always work with the definition that you made before. So we're in a suburban area, so they will burn cars, or we have to give them what they want. But it's actually the respect towards people. And then I remember one more thing. This woman who said in one of our meetings, she said, I thought everything was fine with my son. But then I met the teacher once, and she said he was never in school. And she had written letters to me, but I can't read. So, but she can, if she gets an SMS, she can see that there's an SMS and ask somebody, but she doesn't look at letters. And that's a very small mechanical thing. Then we tried to do an SMS chain, and it ended up, because I'm not very technical, so it ended up in a quite harsh way, because there was this woman who came up and said, my husband beats me because I had put some, I don't know, so that every time somebody sent an SMS, it went out to all. So her husband thought she had a lover. So it was totally wrong. But I will learn next time.
I have a memory from visiting a school's show in Brixton in London, and the children were absolutely amazing, and the parents were in the audience. And when it was over, they were only given very little applause and very little respondents from the parents. And if I go to something like this here with not the same quality, it's like we're sharing and whistling and yeah.
So you mean it might be a part of a culture that you don't clap?
Yeah, or that you don't, in a way, acknowledging that your children is doing something that's interesting, or
that's counter my impression. I don't know. I'm looking at you guys again. I feel that these people are really proud about their children, because the children can read, they cannot. The children can perhaps have a job, or they cannot. So it's like the class journey that our parents or grandparents took, and it's happening right in front of your eyes in Hallonbergen, I think.
Yeah. And I hope I haven't given anybody the impression of these kids as anything but beautiful and wonderful. It's just there are lots of structural problems and that need to be overcome. And I understand people coming from different countries and having to adapt. I can't imagine it to be very easy. So.
Jason, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, but it's for you actually, Helena. It's about the beginning of your presentation. I was just curious about the way that you framed it initially in terms of not wanting to fall into activism or allowing the work to disappear into administration. And I'm curious about the beginnings of those things because I think it is a question of how do we articulate this type of work in the shadow or in the light of activism. But I'm also really curious about I'm going to interpret this in a particular way, what the fear of the question of administration around these types of practices might be that you would want to sort of position the possibility for that not to be super visible and present within them. Because for me personally, I think that one of the most complex areas of the field of social practice is its actual ability to conceive of organizational models and administrative practices that don't operate actually very well in other institutional frames. So I was just kind of curious about why at the beginning you framed beyond these two things as if they don't somehow kind of overlap or that they shouldn't be at the forefront of our dynamics of conversations about them, particularly from an institutional perspective.
I mean, I often talk about Kerstin's practice as one of being an administrative activist. So I think that may have come out a bit wrong. I think one of the sides to Kerstin's practice is that she does address administrative structures, and it's really important. But I think I was answering a question about how we sort of keep these kind of practices in the discussion in the art field, because when they do end up being perhaps just a city-led project, they disappear from, they go off radar, if you see what I mean. And I don't think, I mean, for example, we are not activists, we are an art institutions that are publicly funded. Kerstin was working with us and then with the city, so we're not, perhaps it's good to just state that this project is not an activist project, it's embedded in different institutions. So I think I was trying to frame it like that because of that, but otherwise I think it is important to decide of Kerstin's practice that I didn't talk about so much now. But the fact that she does address administrative structures, and this is the thing that I have brought on the biggest change within the municipal planning department. They have restructured since because of the PARK LEK project. Mm. So
Culture is not up beside planning, Leah. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm struggling to understand this meaning of administrative thing you're giving. You talk about power structures or not? I mean, maybe in Swedish it's different.
I think in Swedish they collide a little, being both.
They collide anywhere, but when you talk about administrative thing, I don't know what you mean.
I think I'm talking about like administrative structures of how things are regulated to play out. Governance, perhaps you would call it. I'm referring to what Kerstin sometimes call municipalities are like washing machines. They only have 7 programs and can only do certain spin cycles. So this kind of structures. Do you understand?
Yes. You get back to that later, I guess. Yes.
Any more questions?
I'm a bit curious about local politician, Because somebody mentioned Jonas Nygren was the chairman of the city council, and he was quite engaged in these issues. And I would like you to comment, all of you maybe, if something happened with the local politicians and what they were planning for Hallonbergen.
Säg något. Du kanske är mer insatt med det.
I think
I mean, I'll say something while Anna gets ready. What I heard, the latest I heard was that the Social Democrats were kicked out, or they lost their majority.
Yeah,
they did.
yeah.
And so Jonas Nygren is no longer in politics in Sundbyberg. So there might be a shift in focus, but still there are some decisions made by the city council that can't be changed. So maybe the speed of things happening will slow down a bit.
But the thing is, Jonas was not a mayor when PARK LEK started. He was invited as a social democrat person to discuss how did the city, this is my initial inquiry, how did the city use their green areas as a social structure? How did the people, what did they use it for? And the two ladies from the planning department and cultural department, both directors, came for a good cake and some coffee and found out that they actually not spoken to each other about the parks, but they both had the parks as their responsibility. And then they wanted to come back and invited more and more people. So there was a series of meetings which were voluntary from the participant, which was like expanding. And then he came in as one of those. And then we went out and we applied for money from other parts, and then I came back. And then because I had met him before, when people started really complaining about him, I took the phone and I said, hello, it's me. They are saying this and this about you on a film. Would you like me to put it on YouTube, or would you like to come and talk to them? And then he said, I'm there in 15 minutes. So he came, and then we spoke, and then he came for another one, and then he realized, and this, I think this is why he participated. I mean, he's a really nice politician, really engaged, really interested in many ways. But he found out that people were saying hello to me. And he thought I'd been there for a long time. And then I said, I only been there for a couple of months. And then I think he realized elections are coming, I better be here. Because he was dependent on the votes from Hallonbergen. So I think that's the basic bottom line. But then he got caught in it. I think he was interested, genuinely interested in what happened. But I don't think he would have entered unless there was some kind of carrot in the end. So, was that a response to your question enough? Yeah.
I was asking about the influence also on the political life, if they changed their plans because of the
Yes.
things you made visible.
Yes, they did. Yes, they and when we took the counter plan, just say that before you guys saying, but when we took, which I am most proud of and most sad of at the same time, when we took the final, they took the final decision of taking away the proposed plan from the builders and the municipality and put in our plan instead. There was not one single vote against. So the whole group of politicians had been so often in Hallonbergen and heard people speak that they actually knew why the decision was taken, because it had lasted so long. But then, I mean, that is also the sadness, because then they thought, so business done, you know.
Robert, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Because when Kerstin presents her project, she often talks about the beginning of the project or the success of the project depending on her way of listening. And I'm wondering what you thought when she came to Hallonbergen and started asking questions. And was she like someone that you were waiting for, or was she like this weird lady, or what, how did you think about it?
I have to say, I lived in England for I think a year and a half, and then when I came back, Kerstin had already been there for some time. So I was introduced to her partly through the tutoring association, and there's a local football team. So that's how
I was the first sponsor of that local football team. Yeah.
All right, so Hallenberg EF, we're up in 4th division now, from 7th.
Yeah.
So that we're doing good work. But I think I just thought she's a go-getter, and she doesn't say no. That's what I thought.
But you helped me to speak to people that otherwise wouldn't have spoken to me.
I tried.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. But you don't take no for an answer anyway.
No,
So.
Okay, so that's how you get to talk to
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay, don't take no for an answer. Any more questions? Yep.
I'm curious about both the PARK LEK project and the situation, because what we have seen has been mainly young men and young boys, and haven't seen so much young women in the material showing. And I'm thinking of that gender aspect of the situation, or if you could say something about it.
I think to start with, I will use another image to answer. When I'm saying hello to your football friends, they greet me like you guys do, with the shoulder going like that and dok dok like this, and that's a response in a way that there is a very few natural spaces for women in public space in such an area. And also it was really brave of many of the women who participated in the Parents Association. There were a lot of them there. You would have seen them if I had shown the film. You would have seen that there were a lot of them. They invited for tea, and it was like a very good situation. But it's not considered really in all these traditions. It's not considered how do you say ärbar, and it's honorable to sit and shout in the square. So this was one thing. But we met. We also started a girls group. And we also started a group with younger. I have a whole film with only younger girls speaking about how it is to be there. Also small school children, there's a lot of girls. So it's not that they're not there, but we have to accept the conditions that are there. I was listening.
I should add, I think, as a society, there's this, we encourage boys to take what they want, and we want the girls to behave in a certain way. But at the youth center, we do have trouble attracting girls too. So it's and it's something we're working with. So Tuesdays, it's just a girls day or girls night, and so the people that working there's a girl that works, and then she brings in. And they can do whatever they want. But the boys, it's something that we're working with. But boys, they don't ta för sig. I don't know how to.
They go and grab.
They take what they want. It's very. And it's this group dynamic. And when they get together, it's But it's something we're working with.
You have the same in your school.
Yeah, a bit of the same, and there is also a group of boys who don't act out and don't show up, and who they also sometimes have difficulties being respected, doing what's right. So it's not just a girl-boy question, it's also a question about what you dream about and what you want to do and what you do with your spare time. Do you stay at home studying, planning to really get an education, or do you sit out?
You know that, Robert.
Act out with your parents?
Yeah.